She pretended to be a stranger's fiancée to escape awkward questions. He played along. The lie went viral. And now, love after 40, unexpected romance, mature relationships, and second chances appear when you least expect them. Discover how one little act turned into the truest love of all. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, turn on the notification bell, and drop some hype on the video. Your support makes all the difference. Ready? Let's go. Jenna Watson woke up that March Tuesday absolutely certain the universe was conspiring against her. Not paranoia, just 42 years worth of well-earned experience, thank you very much. Sunlight streamed through the Manhattan apartment window with the kind of insolence only spring could pull off, illuminating her work desk, where 3 monitors glowed with unread emails, endless spreadsheets, and reminders she pretended not to see. Coffee dripped from the Italian mocha pot with a comforting, almost hypnotic rhythm. It was the kind of ritual that kept Jenna functioning, a small anchor of sanity in a world determined to be chaotic. She grabbed her favorite mug, the one that read, "I prefer coffee to people," in bold letters, and filled it to the brim. The strong aroma spread through the compact kitchen, mingling with the smell of toasted bread and melted butter. Simple pleasures, the only ones that didn't come with ridiculous expectations or guaranteed disappointment. She sat at the table, crossed her legs, and opened her laptop. Her inbox looked like a war zone. 63 new messages since last night. 63 people wanting a piece of her time, her attention, her already limited patience. Jenna sighed, typed in her passwords, adjusted her reading glasses, and began sorting through what needed immediate attention and what could wait until the end of time. That's when she saw it. An email from her mother. Subject: important. Read now. A chill ran down her spine. Nothing good ever came in all caps from Diane Watson. Nothing. She clicked it open with the same dread as someone checking their credit card bill after a month of emotional shopping. Dear Jenna, I hope you're well. Emma finally set the wedding date. It'll be on April 27th in Boston. The whole family will be there. I know you're busy, but it would be wonderful if you could come. And, well, if you'd like to bring someone special, feel free. Love, Mom. Jenna reread the message 3 times. Every word was a carefully placed landmine. Emma, the youngest sister, the sweet angelic one who always did everything right in the right order, was getting married. Of course she was, because Emma was the kind of woman who found true love at 28, planned Pinterest-worthy weddings, and would probably have 2 perfect children before 35. And there was Jenna, 42, single, successful, yes, independent, absolutely, but still, single. And that innocent little line from her mother, "If you'd like to bring someone special," was the polite verbal equivalent of a punch to the stomach. Her phone buzzed on the table. Naomi Ross, best friend, confidant, and the only person on earth who truly understood the brand of defensive sarcasm Jenna used as armor. "Saw your mom's email. She copied me too. Subtle, huh?" The message was followed by a skull emoji. Jenna typed fast, fingers flying over the screen. "I'm considering faking the flu or an urgent business trip to Antarctica." The reply came within seconds. "You are not skipping your sister's wedding. That's coward behavior. And you're many things, Jen, but coward isn't one of them." Jenna huffed but smiled. Naomi had that annoying gift of always being right. They'd known each other since college, survived breakups, nightmare bosses, and 3 a.m. existential crises fueled by cheap wine. Now Naomi wrote a relationship column for an entertainment site, dissecting other people's love lives with the precision of a surgeon and the wit of a stand-up comedian. "Fine, I'll go," with a smile plastered on my face and a list of pre-approved answers for all the annoying questions. Jenna typed, mostly to convince herself. "Like what?" Jenna leaned back in her chair, her coffee cooling in the mug as her brain kicked into gear. She knew the script by heart. Family weddings were hostile territory for single women over 40. The questions always came wrapped in fake concern, seasoned with barely hidden pity. "So, Jenna, are you seeing anyone?" Answer: "Yes, I'm dating my mental health and it's a very healthy relationship. Don't you want kids?" Answer: "I have plants. They don't cry at 3 a.m. Don't you ever feel lonely?" Answer: Only when people ask me things like that. Naomi sent a flood of laughing emojis. You should write a book. Survival Guide for Single Women at Weddings. It'd be a bestseller. Chapter 1. Always keep a glass of wine in hand. It prevents long hugs and invasive questions. Chapter 2. Pretend to be on an important call whenever Aunt Mildred approaches. Jenna laughed. A real, genuine laugh that echoed through the empty apartment. That kind of exchange was what made her feel less out of place in a world obsessed with relationships, weddings, and perfectly wrapped happy endings. But beneath the humor, under the sharp jokes and carefully curated cynicism, there was a tiny annoying truth she hated to admit. Something small, persistent. Loneliness? Not exactly. More like the feeling of always being in the audience, never on the stage, watching life happen for everyone else while she managed spreadsheets, drank coffee, and pretended that being alone was a choice and not a consequence. She shook her head, shooing the thought away like an unwelcome fly. No, not today. Today she had work, meetings, and a perfectly functional life that didn't need external validation. Jenna replied to her mother's email with a short, polite confirmation that she would attend, alone, because she was an adult, independent, and didn't need imaginary boyfriends to meet other people's expectations. She closed the laptop, finished the now cold coffee, and looked out the window. Below, New York pulsed with its usual intensity, people rushing somewhere, horns blaring, street vendors shouting deals, life unfolding at full speed. Jenna smirked. That trademark ironic smile she wore whenever the universe decided to be overly dramatic. Her sister's wedding, Boston, family, awkward questions. She'd survive. She always did. What she didn't know was that in less than 3 weeks, one impulsive lie told in a chaotic airport would turn her neatly organized life into a glorious mess she'd have absolutely no desire to escape from. Tommie O'Connor wasn't the kind of man who lost his temper easily. 39 years of life, 12 of them spent commanding kitchens across 3 different continents, had taught him that control was everything. Too much heat burns the sauce. Too much pressure toughens the meat. Too much haste ruins perfection. But that Monday evening in April, at 7:40 p.m., standing in the middle of his own restaurant in Dublin while watching a customer complain for the 3rd time about the same dish, Tommie felt his patience melt away like butter in a hot pan. The man was the type who made up for a lack of personality with excessive demands. Mid-50s, expensive suit, the posture of someone who believed money could buy respect. He prodded the asparagus risotto with his fork as if conducting an autopsy. It's bland, the man declared, pushing the plate forward with theatrical disdain. Tommie crossed his arms, tilted his head, and smiled. That dangerous smile his staff knew too well. The kind of smile that always came before a storm. Interesting, he said, his Irish accent dripping with irony. Because that dish was seasoned by the same chef who earned 2 Michelin stars and rave reviews in culinary publications across 5 different countries. But perhaps you're right. Maybe my palate has been compromised after years of study and work. The man blinked, startled. His wife turned crimson. I just think that… You think, Tommie cut in, keeping his tone polite but as sharp as a chef's knife. You know more about cooking than I do. That's a bold perspective. I admire the confidence, but the risotto is perfect. If it's not to your taste, I'd suggest trying somewhere else. There's a fast food joint 3 blocks away. I'm sure the salt comes in little packets and you can add as much as you like. Silence. The table next to them pretended not to hear, though Tommie caught their suppressed smiles. The maitre d', Patrick, rushed over, ready to do damage control. Mr. O'Connor, I'll handle this, he murmured. But Tommie was already walking away, pulling off his apron as he headed back to the kitchen. He didn't regret a word. The customer was wrong, the dish was flawless, and Tommie had no tolerance for inflated egos disguised as culinary critique. He'd built Ember and Oak through sweat, skill, and the kind of Irish stubbornness that annoyed as many people as it impressed. His name was in magazines, his restaurant had a 2-month waiting list, and he wasn't about to let anyone diminish that. 2 hours later, back in his apartment, Tommie was packing for New York. Meetings with investors, a spot at a culinary event in Manhattan, and a chance to expand his business into the US. It was an important trip, strategic even, but his mind was still stuck on that arrogant customer. and on the uncomfortable feeling that he'd lost control, even if only for a second. He stopped in front of the bedroom mirror, ran a hand through his slightly tousled brown hair, and sighed. Exhaustion. That was it. He was tired of always being the boss, the responsible one, the man who made every decision and carried every consequence. Sometimes, he just wanted to exist without the weight of expectations, without having to prove anything to anyone. Tommie checked his phone for flight details. Departure at 10 a.m., landing in Boston at 3 p.m. local time, connection to New York at 6. Everything timed, everything planned. He zipped up his suitcase, turned off the lights, and tried to fall asleep thinking about sauces, spices, and new markets. The Dublin airport was relatively calm the next morning. Tommie breezed through security, grabbed a double espresso, and boarded on time. The flight was uneventful. 7 hours of suspended boredom, bad movies, in-flight meals he critiqued mentally, and that claustrophobic feeling of being trapped in an overpriced sardine can. Boston greeted him with gray skies and an announcement that made his stomach sink. Attention, passengers on Flight 447 to New York. Due to severe weather conditions, the flight has been canceled. Please await further instructions. Tommie closed his eyes and counted to 10, then 20, then gave up counting altogether. He went straight to the airline counter where an endless line of frustrated passengers already snaked across the terminal. Chaos, people shouting, kids crying, staff trying and failing to calm the storm. He waited. 20 minutes, 30, 45. When it was finally his turn, the agent had dark circles under her eyes and zero patience left. The next available flight is tomorrow morning, sir. We can offer you a hotel voucher and… Tomorrow? Tommie leaned over the counter, resting both hands on it. I have important meetings in New York tonight. I can't wait until tomorrow. I'm sorry, sir. That's the best I can do. He wanted to argue, to insist, but exhaustion hit harder. He accepted the voucher, grabbed his luggage, and walked through the airport like a man defeated by circumstances beyond his control. That's when he saw the bar. Nothing fancy, low lighting, a worn wooden counter, bottles lined up along the wall. But there were empty stools, and more importantly, alcohol. Tommie sat down, ordered an Irish whiskey because some loyalties were automatic, and let the amber liquid burn down his throat in the best possible way. Rough day? The voice came from his side, feminine, slightly husky, and laced with irony. Tommie turned his head and saw a woman sitting 2 stools away, brown hair in a messy bun, reading glasses hanging from her blouse, the look of someone who'd seen it all and wasn't impressed anymore. She held a glass of red wine and raised an eyebrow at him. Flight canceled? He said, lifting his glass in a sarcastic toast. Yours too? Same problem. Apparently the universe decided Boston was the perfect place to ruin plans. Tommie smiled. He immediately liked her tone, that blend of irritation and humor he recognized all too well in himself. Tommie, he introduced himself, not extending a hand since the distance between them would have made the gesture awkward. Jenna, she replied, raising her glass in a mirrored toast. A comfortable pause followed. Not the awkward kind, more like the quiet that happens between people who don't feel the need to fill every second with words. Tommie looked out through the bar's glass wall at the airport beyond. People rushing, dragging suitcases, talking on phones with exasperated expressions. Everyone trapped in the same logistical hell. You're from Dublin? Jenna asked, turning slightly on her stool. How'd you guess? The accent or the Irish whiskey? Both. And the fact that you're drinking it like it's water. Tommie laughed. A real, genuine laugh. The first good thing that had happened all day. Guilty. And you? Let me guess. New York. Overworked, under-vacationed, and stuck in this cursed airport out of obligation, not choice. Jenna tilted her head, impressed. Wow, either you're very observant or I'm painfully predictable. A bit of both, maybe. She laughed too, a dry but honest sound. I was heading to my sister's wedding in Boston. Or was. Now I'm stuck here with strangers and overpriced wine. Wedding, huh? Tommie took another sip. Terrible events. Too many happy people, too many expectations, too much pressure. I prefer burning kitchens. Burning. Kitchens? I'm a chef. And yes, I've had literal fires, less dramatic than weddings, I promise. Jenna let out an unexpected laugh, the kind that catches a person off guard. Tommie liked the sound of it. He liked the way her eyes sparkled for a second before returning to that carefully composed cynicism. They talked about canceled flights, complicated families, stressful jobs. Tommie told her about the annoying customer back in Dublin, and Jenna countered with tales of absurd corporate meetings. Their banter danced between them like a game, each comment sharper than the last but never mean-spirited. It was play, it was challenge, the kind of exchange that happens when two quick minds recognize each other. Jenna's second glass of wine was half empty when it happened. A couple approached the bar, the woman pointing in their direction with over-the-top enthusiasm. "Look, honey, it's them, the couple I saw at the boarding gate. So cute together." Jenna froze, her glass halfway to her lips. Tommie frowned, confused. "Sorry, there must be a mistake," Jenna began, but the woman was already closer, smiling like she'd just discovered undercover celebrities. "You're engaged, aren't you? I saw the way he looked at you while you were waiting in line. It's so rare to see true love these days." Tommie opened his mouth to correct her, but Jenna was faster. "Yes," she said, her voice steady. "We're engaged." The world stopped for a second. Tommie stared at her in complete disbelief. Jenna held his gaze, a silent, urgent message in her eyes. Just go with it. And Tommie, because he was a man who appreciated controlled chaos, because wine and exhaustion had lowered his defenses, because there was something absolutely fascinating about this strange woman who'd just invented a whole engagement out of thin air, smiled. "Yes," he confirmed, his Irish accent thickening. "Engaged. Completely, hopelessly in love." The woman practically melted in a puddle of sugary happiness. She clasped her hands over her chest like she was watching the ending of a romantic movie, her eyes shining with that overblown excitement of someone who lived for other people's gossip and love stories that weren't her own. "I knew it. I told Richard you two were engaged. The chemistry between you is impossible to hide." She nudged her husband, a middle-aged man wearing the expression of someone who'd rather be anywhere else. "Didn't I, honey?" Richard mumbled something unintelligible, clearly regretting ever following his wife into that bar. Jenna felt panic rise up her throat like bile. What had she just done? Why had she confirmed it? It had to be exhaustion, or the wine, or maybe just a desperate need to avoid more questions about her non-existent love life. And now there she was, trapped in a lie with an Irish stranger who was staring at her with a mix of amusement and disbelief. Tommie, on the other hand, seemed to be loving it. He leaned forward on his stool, moving closer to Jenna with disarming ease, and placed his hand over hers on the counter. His palm was warm, rough, hands of a man who worked for a living, and the touch sent a spark up her arm that she pretended not to feel. "We couldn't hide it, love," he said, his Irish accent now a weapon of mass seduction. "You make me completely transparent." Jenna clenched her jaw, tightened her fingers around the wine glass, and smiled. A smile that was supposed to look romantic but probably landed somewhere closer to mild pain. "It's true," she managed, her voice higher than she'd intended. "He's very transparent." The woman sighed dramatically. "How long have you been together?" Jenna opened her mouth, closed it, opened again. Her brain, usually a machine for spreadsheets and problem-solving, had officially short-circuited. 8 months, Tommie said smoothly, giving Jenna's hand a slight squeeze, a silent cue to play along. "Met her at a conference in Manhattan. I was hosting a dinner for investors. She was in the audience with that look, like someone not easily impressed. It was an irresistible challenge." Jenna turned her head toward him so fast she nearly gave herself whiplash. The man was spinning an entire backstory like a professional actor. And worse, it actually sounded believable. "And you?" The woman's starry eyes were now fixed on Jenna. "When did you know he was the one?" "He cooked for me," Jenna improvised because there was no way out now. "Risotto, it was perfect. Not too much salt, not too little. The perfect balance." Tommie bit his lower lip, clearly trying not to laugh. She had unknowingly used the same dish that started the argument back at his restaurant. It was an insult disguised as flattery, and he caught it immediately. "Oh, how lovely." The woman was nearly squealing. "Can I take a picture with you two? My friends will never believe I met such a sweet, couple at the airport. Actually, Jenna started to decline, but Tommie was already standing, gently pulling her up by the hand. "Of course," he said, sliding an arm around her shoulders with outrageous familiarity. "We'd love to." Jenna found herself pressed against his chest, feeling the heat of his body through their clothes, his scent filling her senses. It was a mix of spice, citrus, and a faint trace of smoke, the smell of kitchens, of work, of someone who lived intensely. She swallowed hard and forced a smile for the woman's phone camera, praying the photo would come out blurry or out of focus. The flash went off 3 times. The woman checked the photos, squealed with approval, and finally, walked away, dragging her husband behind her. Tommie released Jenna immediately but didn't return to his distant stool. He stayed beside her, leaning casually against the counter, that infuriating smirk still playing on his lips. 8 months? Jenna hissed, turning toward him. "Perfect risotto? Are you insane?" "Me?" He raised his eyebrows, feigning offense. "You started it." "Yes, we're engaged." "I just followed your script, love." "Don't call me love." "Why not? We're engaged, remember." Fiancée used pet names. Jenna narrowed her eyes, but couldn't stop the laugh that burst out of her. It was ridiculous, absurd. She had just invented a fake engagement with a random Irishman at an airport because she couldn't admit to a nosy stranger that she was single, and now he was enjoying the situation like it was the funniest thing that had ever happened to him. "This doesn't leave this bar," she said, trying to regain some control. "That woman's going to forget we exist in 10 minutes. End of story." Tommie picked up his whiskey glass, swirled the liquid, and took a slow, thoughtful sip. "Maybe. Or maybe she posts the photo online and we become a viral airport couple meme. Don't even joke about that. I'm just being realistic. The internet loves that kind of thing." Jenna felt her stomach twist. He wasn't wrong. She knew exactly how fast something small could explode online. But what were the odds? Boston was a big city. That woman was just another random stranger, and they would never see each other again. Right? They stayed at the bar for another hour. The conversation flowed surprisingly easily, weaving between teasing remarks and genuine laughter. Tommie told her about Ireland, about his grandmother who'd taught him to cook, about his years working in London before opening his own restaurant. Jenna spoke about New York, about the corporate pressure, about building a successful financial consulting career in a male-dominated market that underestimated smart women. There was something oddly comfortable about their exchange. Maybe it was the wine, maybe the shared exhaustion, maybe the fact that they were 2 strangers with no obligation to ever see each other. Again, no masks, no performances, just 2 people stranded in an airport passing the time. When Tommie's phone rang, he glanced at the screen and sighed. "My hotel just confirmed the room. I should probably head out." Jenna nodded, feeling an odd twinge of disappointment. "Of course, I should probably figure out where I'm spending the night too." He hesitated for a second, like he was about to say something but changed his mind. "It was interesting meeting you, Jenna, and thanks for the spontaneous engagement. It'll make a funny story to tell." "To no one," she corrected, though she was smiling. "We're not telling anyone." "Deal." They said goodbye with a wave, and Tommie disappeared into the airport crowd. Jenna stayed seated for a few more minutes, finishing her wine and trying to process the bizarre encounter. Tomorrow she'd take her rescheduled flight, go to her sister's wedding, survive the intrusive questions, and return to New York. Everything would go back to normal. Her phone buzzed in her bag. "Naomi." "Jen, you are not going to believe what I just saw." Jenna frowned. "What?" "A photo of you, with a guy. A very hot guy, by the way. And the caption says, 'Cutest couple I met today at the Boston airport. Proof that love still exists.' It's got over 1,000 likes already and people are sharing it everywhere." Jenna's blood froze. No. Naomi, this is a mistake. It's not what it looks like." "So you're not engaged to a gorgeous Irishman?" "No, because I've seen the picture, and you two look very engaged. He's holding you like it's anything but fake." Jenna closed her eyes, the reality crashing down on her like a bucket of ice water. The lie had escaped the airport. It was online, it was spreading, and she had no idea how to fix it. "Naomi, I can explain." "Explain in person. Because, honey, you've got a lot to tell me, and I want details. Every single one." The call ended. Jenna sat there at the bar, the empty wine glass still in her hand, the world collapsing around her in a way so absurd it was almost funny. She had faked an engagement with a stranger who was now viral, and somehow, somewhere in the back of her mind, an annoying little voice whispered that this was the most interesting thing that had happened to her in years. Jenna didn't sleep that night. The hotel room was comfortable, the bed soft, the air conditioning perfectly set, but her brain was in full alert mode, replaying the disaster in slow motion. She tossed and turned, checked her phone every 5 minutes, and watched the notifications multiply like a digital plague. The photo had already passed 3,000 shares. 3,000. Strangers she would never meet were commenting on her supposed engagement, analyzing body language, building entire romantic narratives about two strangers at an airport. They look so in love, the way he looks at her. Ugh, my heart. Real couples do still exist, people. Jenna wanted to bury her head under a pillow and scream. Instead, she called Naomi at 2 in the morning. "Are you awake?" she whispered, as if someone could overhear her. "I am now," Naomi grumbled on the other end. "And you should be sleeping instead of turning your life into a sitcom plot." "I didn't create anything. It was an accident." "An accident is spilling coffee. You invented a fiancé. A nosy woman assumed we were a couple. I panicked. And him? The hot Irish guy? Did he panic too, or did he play along because he's insane?" Jenna hesitated. "He thought it was funny. Then he made up an entire story about how we met." Naomi went silent for 3 seconds, then burst out laughing so loudly that Jenna had to pull the phone away from her ear. "Jen, you met a lunatic. A charming lunatic judging by the photo, but still a lunatic. And now there are 3,000 people convinced you two are getting married." "I know. That's why I'm calling. I need help fixing this." "Fix it how? Post, just kidding, guys. That'll make it worse. The internet lives for relationship drama. They'll crucify you for faking it." Jenna's stomach turned. Naomi was right. Any attempt to deny it now would sound desperate, and worse, draw even more attention. She was trapped in a lie that had taken on a life of its own, fed by hopeless romantics with Wi-Fi connections. What do I do? For now, nothing. Let it die naturally. In a week, it'll disappear from everyone's feed and become yesterday's forgotten story. And if it doesn't, then you pray. The call didn't help. Jenna hung up more anxious than before and spent the rest of the night staring at the ceiling, imagining worst-case scenarios. When her alarm went off at 6 a.m. Wednesday, she was already awake, her eyes burning from exhaustion. Her rescheduled flight to Boston left right on time at 9. Jenna boarded with the same dread one might feel walking to the gallows. Her sister's wedding was on Saturday. 3 full days of intense family interaction ahead. 3 days of questions, comments, and pitying looks. And now possibly 3 days of explaining why a photo of her with a total stranger was trending online. When the plane landed in Boston, Jenna had 17 unread messages. 16 were from family. 1 was from an unknown number, with an Irish country code. She opened that one first, her heart inexplicably speeding up. "So, we're famous, who would have thought? If you need me to confirm the story for your family, just say the word. After all, we're engaged. Comes with responsibilities. T." Jenna read it 3 times. He had to be joking. No sane person would actually offer to continue a lie like this. But there was something in the tone, light, self-aware, teasing, that made her smile in spite of herself. She typed back quickly, "That won't be necessary. This will fade on its own. But thank you for the offer, I suppose." The reply came seconds later. "I suppose? You're using Irish expressions now? I'm touched. Offer still stands. Good luck with the wedding." Jenna slipped her phone into her bag without replying, but the smile lingered. The taxi dropped her off at her parents' house at 11:20. A classic American suburban home. Red brick, neatly trimmed lawn, the U.S. flag fluttering on the porch. The kind of house that appears in family movie montages where problems are solved in 90 minutes flat. Diane Watson opened the door before Jenna even rang the bell. Her mother always had that sixth sense radar that detected her children miles away. "Jenna, finally." Diane wrapped her in a tight hug that smelled like floral perfume and suppressed anxiety. "I panicked when I heard your flight was canceled. Are you all right? Did you get any sleep?" "I'm fine, Mom. Just tired." Of course. Come in, come in." Emma's out finalizing the rehearsal details, but she'll be here soon. And your father's in his office pretending to work when he's really watching golf. The house looked exactly as Jenna remembered. Comfortable furniture, family photos on every wall, the smell of fresh coffee wafting from the kitchen. It was comforting and suffocating all at once. A time capsule pulling her back to who she was before she became the independent Manhattan woman she now prided herself on being. Diane took her suitcase and led her inside, chattering nonstop about wedding preparations, decorations, and the ever-growing guest list. Jenna half listened, half strategized her social survival plan. That's when Emma appeared. Her younger sister was everything Jenna wasn't. Naturally blonde, blue-eyed, with a smile that could light up a power grid. She was 28, radiated contagious optimism, and had that annoyingly effortless charm that made everyone around her instantly happier. Emma taught music at an elementary school, was about to marry David, a civil engineer who treated her like a princess, and lived inside a bubble of sunshine and scented candles that Jenna alternately envied and found exhausting. "Jen!" Emma practically flew down the hallway and threw herself into her sister's arms. "You're here. I missed you so much." Jenna hugged her back, feeling some of the week's tension melt away. Emma always had that effect. It was impossible to stay cranky around her for long. "Hey sis, ready for the big day?" "Ready and terrified. There's still so much to do, but now that you're here, everything's going to be perfect." They pulled apart, and Emma held Jenna's hands, studying her with the kind of sharp younger sister intuition that never missed a thing. "You look tired. Flight got canceled, remember? It's not just that. You look tense, tenser than usual." Diane came back from the kitchen with a tray of cookies and tea. Of course she's tense, Emma. Jenna works too much, she always has. "I do not work too much," Jenna protested automatically. "Yes, you do. When was the last time you actually took a vacation?" Jenna opened her mouth, closed it, and realized she didn't have a decent answer. "That's not the point." Emma exchanged a look with their mother, the kind of silent communication families master over the years. Jenna knew that look. It meant worry, pity, and that infuriating assumption that she needed to be saved from herself. "Jen," Emma began softly, "you know you don't have to come alone to the wedding, right? If there's someone special, you can bring them. No pressure." And there it was. The question, disguised as kindness, but still that question. "I'm fine on my own," Jenna said lightly. "Besides, you've already got enough guests." "But it would be so nice if you—" Diane's phone rang, cutting her off. She glanced at the screen and froze. "Girls, have you seen this?" Jenna's stomach dropped. No. Diane turned the phone toward them, showing exactly the picture Jenna dreaded most. Her and Tommie at the airport, his arm around her, both smiling. The caption had been updated by someone. "Cutest engaged couple ever. Found out she's from Boston and he's an Irish chef. Absolute couple goals." Emma screamed, literally screamed. "Jenna, you're engaged?" "No, wait. You're engaged and you didn't tell me?" "Emma, it's not—" "Mom, look. Jen's engaged. To an Irish guy." Diane stared between the photo and her daughter, her face flickering between shock and hopeful joy. "Jenna, is it true? You met someone?" "No, I mean, yes, but not like that." "What do you mean not like that?" "You're hugging. He's looking at you like you're the last woman on earth." Jenna wanted to say it was all fake, that Tommie was a stranger, that nothing about it was real. But the words got stuck in her throat because Emma's eyes were glowing and Diane had that motherly, hopeful expression Jenna hadn't seen in years. She started, her mind racing. Telling the truth now would be humiliating. Another reminder that Jenna Watson was so pathetically single she had to invent boyfriends. "It's complicated." "Complicated how?" Diane pressed. "We've known each other a few months. It's recent." "Recent? Jenna, you're engaged. That's not recent. We're not officially engaged. That woman misinterpreted everything." Emma snatched her mom's phone, zooming in on the picture. "Jen, you look totally in love. And look how many people are commenting. It's viral." Jenna felt the room spin. She had to fix this. She had to. Her own phone buzzed. Another message from the Irish number. "Looks like things escalated. Has your family found out yet?" She typed furiously, shielding the screen from prying eyes. Yes. And now they think we're really engaged. Help. The reply took 30 seconds. Felt like 30 years. Where are you? My parents' house, Boston. Send me the address. Why? Because fiancé's visit. And if we're doing this, we're doing it properly. Jenna stared at the message, stunned. He couldn't be serious. He couldn't actually be offering to fly to Boston to keep up this insane lie that wasn't even his fault. But before she could type a reply, Emma shrieked again. Jen, you have to bring him to the wedding, please. It'll be perfect. Diane clasped her hands, practically vibrating. Yes, oh Jenna, that would be wonderful. We'd finally get to meet someone special from your life. And Jenna, surrounded by her family's giddy excitement, a lie snowballing out of control, and a viral photo that refused to die, did the only thing that made sense in that moment of total madness. She sent the address. Tommie O'Connor stared at the address on his phone screen and wondered, for the third time in 10 minutes, if he had completely lost his mind. He was in a Boston hotel room, with business meetings scheduled for the next day, contracts waiting for review, and an agenda that absolutely did not include pretending to be the fiancé of a woman he had met less than 24 hours ago. And yet, there he was, calling a cab. The truth was both simple and complicated. There was something about Jenna Watson that had caught his attention in a way he hadn't felt in years. Maybe it was her sharp sarcasm. Maybe the way she wasn't easily pressed. Maybe the fact that she seemed just as uninterested in relationships as he was. Tommie had spent the last 5 years building a culinary empire, dating women who lasted only a few weeks before complaining that he was married to his work. And they were right. He was. But Jenna was different. She didn't want anything from him. She had no expectations, no agenda, no look in her eyes that said project to be fixed. And maybe that was exactly why he was heading toward her now. Or maybe it was simply because the whole situation was too absurd to resist. The taxi stopped in front of a suburban house that looked like it belonged in a butter commercial. Tommie paid the driver, adjusted his jacket, and walked up to the front door with the confident ease of a man who did this every day. He rang the doorbell. He could hear voices on the other side. Female voices, one of them clearly panicked. Oh my God, it's him. He's here. Jen, breathe. You're hyperventilating. I am not hyperventilating, I'm having a nervous breakdown. Tommie smiled. He definitely hadn't lost his mind. He had just found a very creative way to make his week interesting. The door flew open, revealing a younger blonde woman with wide eyes and a grin so bright it looked painful. You're him. You're the fiancé. Emma, please, came Jenna's voice from deeper inside the house, tense as a violin string. Don't call him. But Emma had already grabbed Tommie's arm and pulled him inside, closing the door behind him as if afraid he might escape. Come in, come in. We're all family here. Well, not officially yet, but soon, right? She said, eyes sparkling with uncontainable excitement. Tommie extended his hand. His charm turned up just the right amount. Tommie O'Connor, a pleasure to meet you. You must be Emma. Her eyes widened. How did you know? Jenna talks about you all the time. It was a complete lie, but it worked like magic. Emma practically melted, pressing a hand to her heart. She talks about me? That's so sweet. Jenna appeared in the hallway then, hair loose now, no glasses, wearing a navy blue blouse that made her hazel eyes stand out even more. She looked mortified, cheeks flushed, posture stiff like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Tommie, she said, her tone carefully controlled. What a surprise. Love, he replied, crossing the room in 3 long strides and wrapping her in an embrace that looked far too natural to be fake. He leaned close and whispered in her ear, quick and low, Relax, I've got you covered. He felt her body tense for a second, then soften against him. She smelled like lavender and something faintly citrusy, clean, subtle, disarming. When they pulled apart, her eyes carried that mix of relief and pure panic. Diane Watson appeared from the kitchen, drying her hands on a dish towel, her motherly instinct already shifting into full protective mode. So you're the famous fiancé. Tommie turned, flashing the kind of smile that usually disarmed difficult clients and restaurant inspectors alike. Tommie, Mrs. Watson, it's an honor to meet you. Jenna speaks very highly of your family. Does she now? Diane raised an eyebrow, skeptical but clearly intrigued. Constantly. especially about how you make the best cranberry sauce she's ever tasted." Jenna's eyes widened. She had never mentioned cranberry sauce. Tommie was completely making things up and somehow making them sound entirely believable. But Diane lit up immediately. "Oh, you cook. Of course, Jenna said you're a chef." "I am. I own a restaurant in Dublin, Ember and Oak. Contemporary Irish cuisine with European influences." "Irish?" Diane clapped her hands together. "I've always wanted to visit Ireland. They say it's beautiful." "It is. Very green. A cliché, but a true one." Emma pulled out a chair and sat down at the dining table, chin propped in her hands, eyes sparkling like she was watching a live romantic movie. "So how did you two meet again? I want to hear it from you." Tommie looked at Jenna, who looked seconds away from fainting. He gave her a quick reassuring wink and turned back to Emma, fully committing to the role. "At a culinary conference in Manhattan, 8 months ago, last August. I was presenting a new tasting menu for potential investors, and she was in the audience. I couldn't take my eyes off her the entire night." "And you?" Emma turned to Jenna eagerly. "What did you think of him?" Jenna froze. Her usually sharp brain just shut down. Tommie noticed, stepped forward, and draped an arm around her shoulders in a gesture that looked protective and intimate all at once. "She thought I was arrogant," he said with a laugh. "And she was right. But fortunately, she also thought I was charming enough to deserve a chance." Emma sighed loudly. "That's so romantic. Like total opposites attract." Diane watched everything with surgical precision, and Tommie knew she wasn't easily fooled. Mothers never were, but she wanted to believe, and that made things much easier. "How long will you be in Boston, Tommie?" "Until Sunday. I've got meetings tomorrow, but after that I'm free." "Perfect, you can come to the wedding." "Mom!" Jenna tried to intervene, but Emma was already on her feet, bouncing with excitement. "Yes, please say you'll come. It'll be amazing. Jen, just imagine. You won't be alone." The word alone hung in the air like a weight. Jenna felt that familiar sting of inadequacy, the one that came with being the odd duck in a family of swans. Then she felt Tommie's hand on her shoulder, a light, grounding pressure. "I'd love to come," he said evenly. "If Jenna wants me to, of course." All eyes turned to her. Jenna knew she should refuse, make up an excuse, cling to whatever sanity she had left. But she looked at Emma, so happy, so hopeful, and at her mother, who for the first time in years didn't have that worried expression when looking at her eldest daughter. "Of course," she heard herself say. "That would be great." Emma squealed in delight. Diane smiled, satisfied, and Tommie leaned in, pressing a soft kiss to Jenna's temple that sent a shockwave of heat through her body, so intense her knees almost gave out. "Perfect," he murmured against her hair. "Now we're officially in trouble." The following hours blurred into a haze of questions, invented stories, and increasingly elaborate improvisations. Tommie was a born storyteller, spinning details about their relationship with such natural ease that even Jenna began to believe it at moments. He told them about the first dinner they cooked together, how she had burned the dessert pie, and they'd ended up eating ice cream straight from the tub. He talked about a supposed trip to Dublin where she had visited his restaurant and impressed the staff with sharp culinary questions. Jenna just listened, nodded, and occasionally added a detail when pressed. It was surreal, ridiculous, and strangely fun. When Jenna's father came home at 6, the lie was already fully solidified. Richard Watson was a man of few words, retired engineer, obsessed with fixing things that weren't broken. He shook Tommie's hand firmly, studied him in silence for 10 long seconds, and finally said, "You've got honest eyes. That's good." Tommie didn't flinch. "Thank you, sir. I intend to live up to that." Richard grunted approval and went straight to the couch to turn on the news. Mail approval granted. Dinner was served at 7. Diane had prepared roast beef with vegetables, mashed potatoes, and that famous cranberry sauce Tommie had made up. The table was perfectly set, candles lit. The family gathered together. Jenna sat beside Tommie, hyper-aware of every move he made, every time their arms brushed, every small shift that brought him closer. "So, Tommie," Diane began, pouring wine. "Jenna hasn't told us much about you two. When are you planning the wedding?" Jenna choked on her water. Tommie patted her back, laughing. "Easy, love. Don't die before the wedding. We haven't set a date yet, Jenna managed to say. But you are planning to, Emma pressed, her eyes shining. Tommie looked at Jenna, and for a moment something passed between them. Something unscripted, unplanned, something real. We are, he said softly, keeping his gaze locked on hers. When the time feels right. Dinner continued with light conversation, laughter, and family stories. Tommie won them all over effortlessly. He complimented Diane's cooking, debated sports with Richard, listened to Emma's endless talk about wedding plans with genuine attention, and all the while, he touched Jenna. Small touches, a hand on her back, fingers brushing hers, his knee brushing against her leg beneath the table. They were for show. Jenna knew that, but her body didn't seem to understand the script. Every touch sent sparks across her skin, warmed places that had been dormant for years. She caught herself studying his hands. Large, rough, marked with tiny scars from years of working with knives and fire. Hands that created elaborate dishes, commanded kitchens, and now held hers with a fake familiarity that felt dangerously real. After dinner, Emma dragged Jenna upstairs to her room, shutting the door. With a conspiratorial click. Jen, that man is completely in love with you. He is not. He is. The way he looks at you, I nearly melted. David doesn't even look at me like that. Emma, it's complicated. Complicated how? You two are together, engaged. We're not, Jenna snapped, then immediately lowered her voice. Not officially. The photo was a misunderstanding. Emma frowned. But you are together. Dating. Jenna hesitated. Lying to her sister felt worse than lying to strangers on the internet. But telling the truth now, that would destroy everything. Emma would be disappointed, their mother would worry, and Jenna would go back to being the problematic daughter who couldn't hold a relationship together if her life depended on it. We are, she said finally, but it's new. We didn't want any pressure. Emma squeezed her hands, her eyes glistening with happy tears. I'm so happy for you, Jen. Really, you deserve this. You deserve to be happy. The guilt hit like a punch. Jenna hugged her sister tightly, burying her face in Emma's shoulder to hide her own tears threatening to fall. Not tears of joy, tears of total consuming confusion. When they came downstairs, Tommie was out on the porch with Richard, smoking cigars. Well, Richard was smoking. Tommie was just holding one, pretending to enjoy it. Your dad was telling me about the construction business he used to run, Tommie said as Jenna approached. Impressive. Man, he likes you, Jenna replied quietly. That's rare. Should I feel honored? You should. They stood there side by side, watching the glow of the streetlights. It was nearly midnight on Thursday. The wedding was on Saturday. 24 hours left to keep the lie from falling apart. Thank you, Jenna said suddenly, for coming, for doing this. You didn't have to. Tommie turned toward her, the shadows from the porch deepening his eyes, making them darker, sharper. Maybe. I wanted to. Why? Because it's fun, because you're interesting, and because it's been a long time since I've done something completely insane without thinking about the consequences. Jenna laughed, a low, tired sound. Welcome to the club. He took a step closer. Too close. The kind of closeness that wasn't required for the act, with no audience left to impress. Jenna? Yes? If we're going to pull this off, we need to be on the same page, aligned on the details, so we don't slip. Makes sense. So tomorrow, before the rehearsal dinner, we rehearse too. Our story, our mannerisms, how real couples act. Jenna's heart quickened. Is that really necessary? Completely. And when he smiled, that dangerous teasing smile, Jenna knew she was stepping into uncharted territory. This was no longer about fooling her family. It was about discovering just how far a lie could go before it started to feel like the truth. Jenna woke up Friday morning feeling like she had slept inside a washing machine. The guest room at her parents' house was comfortable enough, but her brain had spent the entire night replaying the madness of the past few days on a continuous loop. She'd dreamed of Irishmen making risotto, viral photos blown up on billboards, and her mother planning a wedding that didn't even exist. It was 7:40 when her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from Tommie. Good morning, fiancé. Coffee at 9? We've got rehearsing to do. She reread the message 3 times, still half asleep, trying to remember if she'd agreed to that. She had, on the porch, under the dangerous influence of wine and proximity. And he was right. They needed to get their story straight, rehearse the details. But the thought of spending hours alone with Tommie O'Connor, away from the protective chaos of her family, did something strange to her stomach, something between nerves and a flicker of anticipation. She refused to. "Aim. Where?" she typed back. "I know a place. Sending the address, wear something comfortable. We're going for a walk." A walk. Of course, because apparently pretending to be in a relationship now required physical activity. Jenna dragged herself into the shower, letting the hot water work the tension from her shoulders while she tried to build a mental shield against the Irish charm she was about to face. She chose dark jeans, a plain white blouse, and comfortable sneakers. Pulled her hair into a loose ponytail, added a touch of mascara and gloss. Nothing excessive. This wasn't a date. It was a strategy meeting, except it felt exactly like a date. She went downstairs around 8:30, finding her mother in the kitchen frying bacon and scrambling eggs. The smell was comforting, a nostalgic echo of 1,000 childhood mornings. "Sleep well?" Diane asked, turning with a spatula in hand. "Reasonably. Tommie called earlier. Said you two are meeting up." Such a thoughtful man. Always checking in, always confirming. "You got lucky, Jenna." That familiar knot of guilt tightened again, the one that came from deceiving the people she loved. She swallowed it down, forced a smile, and accepted the breakfast plate her mother offered. "Yeah, he's thoughtful. And handsome. Emma couldn't stop talking about him last night. I think even David got jealous." Jenna laughed despite the tension. "David has nothing to worry about. Emma only has eyes for him." "True. Those two are perfect together." Diane sat down across from her, maternal eyes studying every nuance. "Just like you and Tommie. I see the chemistry. Don't bother denying it." "Mom, I'm not pressuring you. I'm just happy for you. It's been so long since I've seen you relaxed around someone. You've always been so guarded, so in control. But last night, when he put his hand on your back during dinner, you smiled, really smiled. Not that polite smile you give everyone else." Jenna's heart clenched. Her mother had noticed. Of course she had, and the worst part was she wasn't wrong. Jenna had relaxed. She had laughed, genuinely. She had caught herself forgetting, even for brief moments, that all of this was a lie. "It's different with him," Jenna admitted, because it was true, even if it was dangerous to say it aloud. "Different good?" "Terrifyingly good." Diane reached across the table, covering Jenna's hand with her own. Warm, soft, familiar. "Sometimes the best things are terrifying at first. When I met your father, I was scared to death. He was nothing like what I thought I wanted, but that's exactly why it worked." Jenna nodded, unable to trust her voice. If her mother only knew that the entire relationship was theater, that Tommie was practically a stranger, playing the role of fiancé out of sheer chaotic amusement. Her phone vibrated. "I'm outside." She finished her breakfast quickly, grabbed her bag, and escaped before more questions could come. Tommie was leaning against a rental car, a discreet black sedan. He wore faded jeans, a gray t-shirt that stretched over broad shoulders, and sunglasses that hid his eyes but not the insolent grin. Punctual. "I like that in a fiancé. Stop calling me that." "Why, it's technically true. Fake fiancé is still a fiancé." Jenna climbed into the car without answering. He chuckled, circled around, and slid into the driver's seat. The confined space made everything more intense. The smell of him, a mix of spice and wood, the warmth radiating off his body, the acute awareness of every movement he made. Tommie drove in silence for about 20 minutes, leaving the suburbs behind until they reached a wooded area on the outskirts of Boston. Eventually, he pulled over near a walking trail by a small but picturesque lake. The morning was bright, the sun already warm, birds chirping in the trees. "Here?" Jenna asked as she stepped out of the Guru. "Here. Quiet place, no prying eyes. Perfect for rehearsing without interruptions." They started walking side by side down the dirt trail. The lake shimmered to their left, its surface mirroring the pale blue sky. It was peaceful, almost unreal after the chaos of the past few days. "So," Tommie began, hands in his pockets. "Let's review. How did we meet?" "Gastronomic conference, Manhattan, August. You were presenting, I was in the audience. Good. And what attracted you to me? Jenna shot him a sideways look. Your natural humility? He laughed out loud, the sound echoing along the empty trail. Try again, with more conviction. You were confident, interesting, different from the men I usually meet. Better. And me? You what? What attracted me to you? Jenna hesitated, feeling the heat climb up her neck. You said it was my expression, that I didn't seem easily impressed. True, but it was more than that. He stopped walking, turning to face her fully. It was the way you laughed, not the polite kind people give at social events because they're supposed to. It was genuine, rare, and I wanted to hear it again. Jenna's heart gave a strange, uneven jump. Was he still playing the role, or saying something real, disguised as fiction? That's good, she managed. Convincing. It's not about being convincing. Tommie stepped closer, invading her space in a way that should have felt uncomfortable, but didn't. It's about believing what you say. If you don't believe it, no one else will. And do you believe it? When I'm with you? Yes. Silence. The heavy kind, thick with things unspoken. Jenna forced herself to break eye contact, turning to walk again. What about our families? You've met mine. I should know about yours. Tommie caught up easily, matching her pace. My mother died when I was 17. Cancer. My father still lives in Cork. Retired, stubborn as a mule. I've got a younger sister. Siobhan, married, 2 kids. She runs an art gallery in Galway. I'm sorry about your mother. It's been a long time, but thank you. He kicked at a small rock on the trail, an easy gesture, though there was weight behind it. She's the one who taught me to cook, said food was love in solid form, that feeding someone was the most intimate thing a person could do. Jenna looked at him then, really looked, seeing beyond the charm and confidence for the first time. There was history. There, layers he hid behind that easy smile. Is that why you became a chef? Partly. The other part was proving to my father that I didn't need to be an engineer or a lawyer to succeed. We Irish are stubborn, remember? I'm the product of that. And you proved it. I did, but it cost me. Relationships, mostly. When you pour everything into a restaurant, there's not much left for anything else. He looked at her then, his gray-green eyes intense even in daylight. And you? What's your excuse? My excuse for what? For being single at 42, beautiful and brilliant as you are. Jenna felt her face flush. That's invasive. It's honest. And we're past formalities, don't you think? She sighed, eyes drifting toward the lake. I've had relationships, some lasted years, but there was always a pattern. They wanted me to be different, less focused on work, more available, more domestic, and I'm not that. I won't apologize for having ambition, nor should you. Ambition is sexy. Jenna rolled her eyes but smiled. You have an answer for everything. I do. It's both a talent and a curse. They walked a little farther, reaching a small wooden bridge that crossed a stream feeding into the lake. Tommie stopped halfway across, leaning against the railing to watch the water flow beneath them. So, rules, he said suddenly. We should set boundaries, to keep things uncomplicated. Jenna joined him at the railing, grateful for the shift in tone. Agreed, like what? Like when we're alone, we don't have to act, we can just be ourselves, no pressure. Makes sense. And when we're around your family, we stick to the script. Casual touches, looks, small gestures, things real couples do. Right. And after the wedding, we end it. You go back to New York, I go back to Dublin. We make up some story about irreconcilable differences. Broken engagement, move on with our lives. It was logical, practical. Exactly the kind of plan Jenna appreciated. So why did it sound so wrong? Perfect, she said, keeping her voice steady. No complications. No complications, he repeated. But something in his tone didn't match the words. They stood there for several quiet minutes just watching the water. It was strange how silence between them never felt uncomfortable, as if they didn't need to fill every moment with words, as if simply existing in the same space was enough. Jenna? I need to ask you something. What? He turned, leaning one hip against the railing, arms crossed. Why did you really agree to this? Don't tell me it was just to avoid family questions. There's more to it. Jenna bit her lip, considering a lie. But she was tired of lies, at least with him, she could be honest. Because I wanted to feel something. Even if just for a few days, even if it's fake. I wanted to know what it's like to be chosen, to be the person someone looks at with that kind of intensity, to belong to something, even if it's made up. She gave a humorless laugh. Pathetic, right? No. His voice came low, steady. It's human. He pushed away from the railing, standing right in front of her, so close she had to tilt her head back to keep his gaze. Can I try something? He asked. Depends on what it is. Trust me. Before she could protest, Tommie lifted a hand to her face, his rough fingers tracing the line of her jaw, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. It was a gentle touch, exploratory, completely different from the practiced gestures of the night before. What are you doing? Jenna whispered. Rehearsing. Couples touch. We need to look natural. This doesn't feel like rehearsal. No? He leaned in closer, his face just inches from hers. Then what does it feel like? Dangerous. He smiled. That slow, devastating smile that made her stomach twist. Good. And then he kissed her. It wasn't the quick, polite kiss for show she had expected. It was real, slow, exploring, carried by an intensity that stole the air from her lungs. His lips were firm yet soft, moving against hers with a patience that clashed beautifully with the urgency building inside her. Jenna found herself responding, her hands sliding up to his chest, feeling the hard lines of muscle beneath his shirt, his heartbeat racing as fast as hers. Tommie tilted his head, deepening the kiss, his hand slipping to the back of her neck, fingers threading into her hair. There was heat, there was want, there was something dangerously close to being too real to be comfortable. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless. Jenna blinked, struggling to process what had just happened. Tommie watched her with an expression she couldn't quite read. That was, she began. Rehearsal, he finished, though his voice came out rough, uncertain. Just rehearsal. Right, rehearsal. But neither of them moved. Neither broke eye contact, and neither believed their own lie. Jenna's phone buzzed, shattering the moment. She pulled it from her bag with trembling fingers. A message from Emma. Wedding rehearsal at 2 p.m. Don't be late. Reality slammed back hard. We should go, Jenna said, stepping away, putting physical and emotional space between them. Yeah, we should. The walk back to the car was silent. Not the comfortable silence from before, but something tense, charged. Something had shifted on that bridge, and they both knew it. When Tommie pulled up in front of her parents' house, he reached out, lightly touching her arm before she got out. Jenna. Yes? What happened back there? Let's forget it. Don't complicate things. Completely agree. Good. Good. She got out of the car too quickly, shut the door harder than she meant to, and walked into the house without looking back. Tommie stayed behind for another 5 minutes, forehead resting against the steering wheel, trying to make sense of how a simple charade had gotten so complicated in less than 48 hours. Inside, Jenna went straight to her room, locked the door, and sat on the bed. She touched her lips with her fingertips, still feeling the ghost of the kiss. Just rehearsal, she whispered to the empty room. That's all. But her racing heart, trembling hands, and the lingering warmth in her stomach said something entirely different. And for the first time in years, Jenna Watson was afraid of something she couldn't control. The wedding rehearsal began promptly at 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon at the Boston Methodist Church, a pale brick building whose stained glass windows cast soft rainbows across the wooden floor. Jenna arrived 10 minutes late, her hair still damp from the second shower she'd taken, as if hot water could rinse away the lingering sensation of Tommie's lips on hers. It couldn't. Emma was radiant, orchestrating everyone, with the glowing energy of someone watching her dream materialize at last. The groom, David, was a solid man of 32, brown hair neatly combed, calm smile of someone not easily shaken. He looked at Emma with that unmistakable adoration that made Jenna's chest tighten with something between tenderness and envy. Jen! Finally! Emma waved from the improvised altar. Come here, I need you up front. Jenna climbed the steps and took her place as maid of honor. There were 3 other bridesmaids, Emma's friends from college and work, all dressed casually for the rehearsal but already chatting excitedly about the dresses they'd wear tomorrow. Jenna smiled, nodded, pretended to care, while her mind was miles away, still trapped on a wooden bridge where the world had flipped upside down. That's when Tommie walked in. He had changed clothes. Now he wore black dress pants and a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, revealing muscular forearms, marked by tiny kitchen burns. His hair was slightly tousled, as if he'd run his hands through it one too many times. His eyes found hers across the room instantly, and something passed between them. Recognition, tension, the shared memory of something that should never have happened. Emma practically flew toward him. "Tommie, I'm so glad you made it. Sit up front near the family." Diane appeared right behind, utterly enchanted by the Irishman who had fallen from the sky to save her, eldest daughter from eternal singleness. "Tommie, dear, you look wonderful. Jenna must be so happy to have you here." Jenna wished the floor would open and swallow her whole. Instead, she smiled in what she hoped looked like affection and not full-blown panic. "Always happy when he's around," she managed, her voice only slightly strangled. The Reverend, a kind-faced elderly man with thick glasses and a soft voice, began explaining the order of the ceremony. Family entrance, bridesmaids. Walk, the bride's entrance. Vows, rings, kiss, exit. Everything timed, rehearsed, so tomorrow would unfold flawlessly. They practiced 3 times. On the third, when Emma and David kissed at the end, the rehearsal guests clapped. Jenna watched the genuine joy on her sister's face and felt something pinch her heart. Emma deserved this, deserved real love, a fairy tale wedding, a happy ending with no disclaimers. And Jenna deserved the elaborate lie she'd built with a dangerously good kisser who happened to be a stranger from Dublin. After the rehearsal, everyone headed to a nearby Italian restaurant for the rehearsal dinner. Long tables, wine flowing freely, lively chatter. Jenna was strategically seated beside Tommie. 2 hours of forced proximity while pretending the morning hadn't happened. "You okay?" he asked quietly, while others laughed and swapped stories about the couple. "Perfectly fine. Doesn't look like it. And you're an expert on how I look?" "I'm learning fast." Jenna took a long sip of red wine, wishing the alcohol would work faster. "About this morning, forgotten," he interrupted, cutting into his lasagna with more force than necessary. "As agreed. Great. But neither of them ate much. Neither really joined the conversation, and when their fingers brushed reaching for the same breadbasket, both recoiled as if shocked. Oliver Farmer arrived during dessert. Jenna saw him before he spotted her, and her stomach twisted in that old knot of embarrassment and irritation. Oliver had been her teenage crush, the handsome boy who lived 3 houses down, captain of the football team, object of half the girls' affection. They'd dated briefly when Jenna was 17. Nothing serious, just a few awkward outings. He'd taken another girl to prom, and Jenna had pretended not to care. Now, 25 years later, Oliver was still handsome. Blonde hair touched with gray, fit body, confident smile of a successful insurance salesman. He was David's cousin, so of course he'd be at the wedding. "Jenna Watson," he exclaimed a little too loudly, arms wide open. "It's been ages." She stood, accepted the quick hug that smelled of expensive cologne and inflated ego. "Hi, Oliver. Yeah, it's been a while. You look great. New York's been good to you." His eyes made that quick, appraising sweep men think is subtle. "Still single?" And there it was. The question, casual, but with that faint edge of condescension, and in front of everyone. Before Jenna could reply, Tommie rose beside her. He didn't speak at first, just draped an arm around her shoulders in a gesture that was pure, unmistakable possession. "Actually," Tommie said, his Irish accent thicker, his tone polite but edged like a blade, "she's very well taken care of." Oliver blinked, processing. He looked at Tommie, then at Jenna, then back at the arm around her. "Oh, you're Tommie O'Connor, her fiancé." The U.S. word dropped like a bomb. Jenna felt every pair of eyes at the table turn toward them. Emma wore that enormous smile of someone watching a romantic movie. Diane practically radiated maternal satisfaction. And Oliver? Oliver looked like a man who'd just taken a metaphorical slap to the face. "Fiancé? Really?" He forced a laugh. "Wow. Congratulations. Didn't know you were. Well, congratulations." "Thank you," Jenna said, leaning into Tommie because it was easier to play the part than explain the truth. "It's recent. Clearly." Oliver pulled up an empty chair, joining the group uninvited. "And you're from where, Tommie?" "Tommie," he corrected, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. Dublin, I own a restaurant there. Oh, a chef. Interesting. Oliver said it like the word meant the opposite. Jenna's always been more of the corporate type. Funny how we attract our opposites, huh? Tommie leaned slightly forward, posture easy, but Jenna could feel the tension, coiling beneath his calm. Not that opposite. We both value excellence, hard work, and not tolerating people who underestimate others' abilities. Touché. Oliver laughed, though it came out tight. The conversation around the table had drifted to other topics, but Jenna could still feel peripheral attention flickering toward them. How long were you together before the engagement? Oliver pressed, clinging like a dog with a bone. Long enough, Jenna answered before Tommie could. And how about you, Oliver? Life treating you well? Still selling insurance? It was an obvious diversion, but it worked. Oliver launched into talk about his recent divorce, his promotion, his plan to buy a sailboat. Jenna pretended to listen while her mind replayed the encounter. Tommie had stepped between her and Oliver like a shield. He'd marked territory with a natural ease that seemed rehearsed, but Jenna knew it wasn't. There was something genuine in the way he protected her, even when the whole thing was an act. When Oliver finally moved on to greet other guests, Tommie didn't drop his arm right away. He stayed there, his warmth surrounding her in a way that should have been uncomfortable, but wasn't. Thank you, she murmured. For what? For handling him. Oliver's always been intrusive, noticed, and you've always been too polite to tell people like him to go to hell. Jenna laughed softly, the sound real this time. You barely know me and already figured that out? Not hard. You've got a pattern. You smile when you should yell, agree when you should push back, shrink yourself to fit into spaces that should be making room for you. She turned to look at him directly. Is that psychological analysis, or are you just showing off how observant you are? Both. They stayed like that longer than necessary, looking at each other while laughter and conversation filled the room around them. It was like being inside a bubble, cut off from the rest of the world. Naomi Ross arrived at 9 o'clock. Jenna hadn't expected her. Naomi lived in New York and had said she'd only fly in Saturday morning for the wedding. But there she was, wild red hair, emerald green dress, and that mischievous grin that always meant trouble worth watching. Surprise, she announced, hugging Jenna tight. I wasn't about to miss my best friend's rehearsal dinner, and especially not the chance to meet the mysterious fiancé. Jenna froze. Naomi knew the truth. Naomi knew it was all a lie, but the gleam in her eyes told Jenna she'd come to enjoy the show, not expose it. Naomi, this is Tommie. Tommie, Naomi Ross, my best friend and relationship columnist. Tommie stood and extended a hand. Pleasure. I've heard a lot about you. I'm sure you have. Naomi shook his hand, assessing him openly. And I've heard absolutely nothing about you until 3 days ago, which is fascinating considering you're engaged. Naomi, Jenna began in a warning. Relax. I'm not here to ruin the party. Naomi sat down, grabbed Jenna's wine glass and took a sip. But I will want details later. All the details. Dinner continued for another hour. Tommie talked with Naomi, who interrogated him with the precision of a trial lawyer. He answered every question with that sharp-edged humor that made Jenna laugh despite herself. It was like watching two predators circling, each sizing up the other, both amused. By the time they said goodnight, near 11, Jenna was drained from smiling, pretending, holding up the act. Tommie offered her a ride and she accepted because the alternative was going with her family, and she needed a few minutes of silence. Neither spoke at first. Tommie drove through the quiet Boston streets, city lights shimmering off the windshield, soft music playing, ignored by both. Your friend Oliver's an idiot, Tommie said finally. Ex-crush, Jenna corrected. And yes, he is. You were in love with that guy? At 17, everyone's an idiot at 17. True. More silence, but it wasn't empty. It was full, heavy with everything unsaid. Jenna. About the kiss. She closed her eyes. I thought we were forgetting that. I'm trying, it's not working. Jenna opened her eyes, gazing at his profile lit by the passing streetlights. Tommie, we had an agreement. No complications. After the wedding, we go back to our own lives. I know what we agreed. Then why are we having this conversation? He didn't answer right away. He stopped at a red light, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel, his jaw tight. Because I can't stop thinking about that kiss. Because every time I touch you, even when it's just for the performance, I feel something I shouldn't. And because I'm starting to forget where the lie ends and the truth begins. Jenna's heart kicked into a faster rhythm. She should have laughed, should have cracked a joke, should have deflected. But she was too tired for more lies. So do I, she admitted quietly. And it's terrifying. It is. The light turned green. He started driving again. But the confession hung in the air between them like thick smoke. When they pulled up to her parents' house, Tommie turned off the engine, but neither moved to get out. They sat there in the parked car, the soft glow of a street lamp washing the inside in muted gold. "What do we do?" Jenna asked. "I don't know. You're the planner. I just cook and improvise." "That's not helpful." "Sorry." Jenna turned in her seat to face him. "Tommie, we're from different countries, different lives. This was always temporary. Tomorrow's the wedding. After that, goodbye." That was the plan. It was. And it still has to be. "Are you trying to convince me or yourself?" "Both." He smiled, but it was a sad, wistful curve of his mouth. "You know what's funny? I spent 5 years building a restaurant, a reputation, a life. Thought it was enough. Then I met you, and suddenly it isn't." "Tommie, let me finish." He turned fully toward her. "I don't know what this is. Maybe it's just attraction. Maybe it's the chaos of the situation. But it's real to me. And I think it's real to you, too." Jenna felt her eyes sting. "And if it is, so what? We made up an engagement, Tommie. We lied to everyone. That's not a foundation for anything real." "Maybe not. But maybe it's the beginning of something that could be. Or maybe it's just fantasy. And when it's over, we'll realize there's nothing there but great chemistry and awful timing." He reached out, brushed her cheek with his fingertips. "Only one way to find out." "What way?" "Stop fighting it. Stop planning. Just feel." And before she could protest, he kissed her again. But this kiss was different. It wasn't rehearsal. It wasn't a show. It was desperate, honest, charged with every bit of confusion and desire that had been simmering between them. Jenna found herself responding with equal intensity, her hands clutching his shirt, pulling him closer. Tommie groaned softly against her lips, his hand sliding to the back of her neck, deepening the kiss. There was urgency. There was need. There was that frightening feeling of falling with no safety net. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless. Jenna rested her forehead against his, eyes closed. "This complicates everything," she whispered. "I know. I don't know if I can handle complicated right now." "Me neither." "So what do we do?" Tommie leaned back but kept his hand on her cheek. "Tomorrow's your sister's wedding. We'll play our parts. We'll be the perfect couple. And after that, we talk, for real, about what this is and what we do about it. And if we decide there's no future, then at least we'll know. At least we won't spend the rest of our lives wondering what if." Jenna nodded, unable to trust her voice. She got out of the car slowly, her legs unsteady. Tommie stepped out too, circled around, and walked her to the front door. "Good night, Jenna. Good night." He leaned down, pressed a soft kiss to her forehead, and walked back to the car. Jenna stood on the porch, watching the taillights disappear down the quiet street. Inside, the house was dark except for the kitchen light. Naomi sat at the table, a glass of wine in hand, a mischievous smile tugging at her lips. "So," she said, "when are you two going to stop? Pretending and admit you're actually in love?" Jenna sank into the chair across from her. "I don't know what's happening, Naomi. I do. You're falling. And for the first time in years, you're not trying to stop yourself. That terrifies me. It should. The best things always do at first." Naomi refilled another glass and slid it toward her. "Now tell me everything, and don't skip a single detail." And there, in the quiet kitchen of her parents' house, Jenna told her about the airport, the lie, the kiss on the bridge, the growing confusion. Naomi listened without interrupting, and when Jenna finished, she simply said, "You deserve this. You deserve to feel this. Stop running. What if it goes wrong? What if it goes right?" Jenna had no answer to that. She just took a sip of wine and hoped tomorrow would bring some clarity. Tomorrow was the wedding, and the day everything would change. Jenna woke up Saturday morning to sunlight spilling through the window and the sound of Emma humming down the hallway. The wedding day had arrived. She checked her phone, 7:12 a.m. No messages from Tommie. Part of her felt relieved. The other part, disappointed. She got up, stretched, and went straight for the shower. The hot water helped clear the fog of last night. Today would be about Emma, about celebrating her sister's love, about being present and happy. Whatever this thing with Tommie was, it could wait. By 8 o'clock, the house was chaos. Already a cheerful chaos. The makeup artist had arrived. The hairstylist had set up an improvised station in their parents' room. Flowers were delivered, and the photographer appeared to capture every detail. Emma was radiant even without makeup, hair in rollers wrapped in a white robe with bride embroidered across the back. "Jen," she called, pulling her sister into a tight hug. "I'm so nervous and so happy. Is it normal to feel both at the same time?" "Completely normal," Jenna assured her, smoothing a loose curl. "You're going to be the most beautiful bride Boston's ever seen. And you'll be right there with me, with Tommie. Jen, you two are so perfect together. Seeing you last night, the way he looks at you, it's real." Guilt pricked again. Jenna forced a smile. "Thanks, sis. Today's your day. Let's focus on you." The hours flew by. Makeup, hair, dresses. Jenna wore a navy strapless gown that fit her like it had been made for her. The other bridesmaids wore the same shade, a perfect visual harmony. Emma was stunning in her lace gown, long train, delicate veil that seemed to float behind her. Diane cried 3 times before they even left the house. Richard kept his composure, but Jenna saw his eyes glisten when Emma descended the stairs fully dressed. "My little girl," he said, voice thick with emotion. "You're beautiful." The ceremony was set for 3. They arrived at the church at 2:15. Guests were already gathering at the entrance, elegantly dressed, chatting and laughing. Jenna spotted Tommie instantly. He wore a dark gray suit, crisp white shirt, and a blue tie that perfectly matched her dress. His hair was neatly styled, and when his eyes met hers across the room, the world slowed down. He crossed the crowd with purpose, stopping right in front of her. He didn't speak at first, just took her in, gaze sweeping from head to toe, those gray-green eyes darkening. "You look absolutely breathtaking," he said at last, voice low and rough. "You too. The suit suits you." "I hate suits, but for you I'll suffer through it." Jenna laughed despite the tension. "What a gentleman." "Always." Naomi appeared beside them, in a fiery red dress and heels that made her nearly 6 feet tall. "You two really need to stop looking at each other like that in public. It's getting indecent." "Naomi," Jenna hissed. "It's true. Half the people here are already talking about the hottest couple at the wedding, and it's not the bride and groom." Tommie grinned, slipping an arm around Jenna's waist in a gesture that was becoming far too natural. "I'll take that as a compliment." "You should. Now go find your places. The show's about to start." The ceremony was beautiful, exactly as Emma had dreamed. The Reverend spoke about love, commitment, and partnership. David's eyes filled with tears the moment Emma appeared on her father's arm. The vows were personal and raw, drawing tears. From half the guests, Jenna watched it all from her place beside the altar, hyper-aware of Tommie sitting in the first row, not watching the bride and groom, but her. Every time their eyes met, something passed between them, something that went far beyond pretending. When Emma and David finally kissed, officially husband and wife, the church erupted in applause. Jenna blinked away her own tears, clapping with the others, and felt something shift deep inside. Maybe it was witnessing real love, or maybe it was realizing she wanted that too. Not the elaborate ceremony, but the genuine connection, the choice to stay, despite the fear. The reception was held at an elegant venue 20 minutes from the church. Blue and gold decor, twinkling lights hanging from the ceiling, dessert tables that looked like art installations. Soft music filled the air as guests arrived, sipping drinks and finding their seats. Jenna was seated at the main table with the family and wedding party. Tommie, as her fiancé, was placed right beside her. The proximity was delicious torture. His arm brushed against hers. His hand occasionally rested on her thigh beneath the table. Each touch sent tiny electric sparks through her body. The speeches began during dinner. David gave a heartfelt toast thanking the Watson family for welcoming him. Emma cried again. David's father shared embarrassing childhood stories, drawing laughter from the crowd. Then it was Jenna's turn. She stood, champagne glass trembling slightly in her hand. Every eye in the room turned to her. She took a deep breath, found Emma's gaze, and began. Emma has always been the sister who sees the world in brighter colors than the rest of us. When I saw gray, she saw rainbows. When I saw obstacles, she saw possibilities. Jenna smiled, emotion rising in her chest. And when I stopped believing in real love, she kept believing. Not just believing, living it. Emma and David are proof that pure, honest, and genuine love still exists in this cynical world. She paused, her gaze sweeping across the room until it inevitably found Tommie's. He was watching her with such intensity that it stole the air from her lungs. Recently, Jenna continued, improvising now, I've learned that sometimes love shows up in the most unexpected moments, in the most unlikely places, and sometimes it disguises itself as chaos before revealing its true face. Her voice trembled. Emma, David, I wish you a lifetime of the love you share today, and may you never stop believing, even when the world conspires against you. The room erupted in applause. Emma was openly crying now. Jenna sat down quickly, feeling her own tears threatening to fall. Tommie's hand found hers beneath the table, fingers intertwining, giving a gentle squeeze. Beautiful speech, he murmured. It was about them. It was. But it was also about us. Jenna didn't deny it. She couldn't. The dancing began after dinner. The newlyweds had their first dance to At Last by Etta James, classic, timeless, perfect. Then Emma danced with their father and Diane danced with David. Finally, the floor opened to everyone. Tommie stood and held out a hand. May I have this dance? Jenna hesitated only a second before accepting. He led her to the center of the floor, pulling her close, one hand on her waist, the other holding hers. The song was slow and romantic, something about everlasting love. You're a good dancer, Jenna remarked, surprised. My mother made me take lessons when I was 12. I complained then, but I'm grateful now. Why? Because it gives me an excuse to hold you like this. They danced close, almost no space between them. Jenna could feel the warmth of him through their clothes, his heartbeat steady against her chest. She rested her head on his shoulder, eyes closed, and for a fleeting moment, she let herself imagine it was real, that they were a couple in love celebrating her sister's wedding. No lies, just something beautiful and true. Jenna, Tommie murmured against her hair. I don't want this to end. She lifted her head to meet his eyes. Tommie, let me say this. He stopped dancing, right there in the middle of the floor, surrounded by other couples yet completely isolated in their own world. I know it started as a lie. I know it doesn't make sense. But when I'm with you, nothing else matters. And, for the first time in years, I want something more. More than my restaurant, more than success, more than safety. What do you want? You. Us. A real chance. Jenna's heart pounded so hard she was sure he could hear it. We live on different continents. Airplanes exist. We have complicated lives. Most people do. We barely know each other. Then let's fix that. Let's really get to know each other. No pretending. She wanted to say yes. Every cell in her body screamed to say yes. But fear held her still. What if it doesn't work? Tommie smiled. That soft, devastating smile she was beginning to love. What if it does? Before she could respond, Oliver appeared beside them, drunk grin on his face, glass in hand. Hey, mind if I steal the lady for a dance? Tommie didn't let go of her. No, Oliver blinked. Excuse me? You heard me. No. Man, it's just a dance. And I said no. Tommie took a step closer, protective posture unmistakable. She's with me. Tonight, tomorrow, and every day after. So I suggest you find someone else to bother. Oliver raised his hands in surrender, backing off. All right, man, no problem. As he walked away, Jenna looked up at Tommie, half amused, half in awe. That was very territorial. It was. Apologies? No, it was actually kind of sexy. He grinned, that slow, dangerous grin. I'll keep that in mind for future reference. They danced through 2 more songs before Naomi intercepted them, tugging Jenna aside with urgency. Did you see this? She whispered, holding up her phone. The photo of them dancing had been posted by the official wedding photographer on the event's social media. It already had hundreds of likes. The comments were all variations of the same theme. Most beautiful couple ever. When's their wedding? Proof that real love exists. Naomi, this is getting out of control. It's been out of control for days, sweetheart. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Jenna looked across the ballroom. Tommie was talking to David, laughing at something, completely at ease. Like he belonged there. Like he'd always belonged. I don't know, she admitted softly. Liar. You know exactly what you want. You're just scared to admit it. And what if I admit it? And he goes back to Dublin and realizes it was all just an illusion. What if you don't admit it and spend the rest of your life wondering? Before Jenna could answer, Emma appeared, dragging her away for pictures with the bridesmaids. The rest of the night blurred into laughter, dancing, endless toasts. But Jenna was on autopilot, her mind spinning in circles. By midnight, Emma and David were showered in rice as they climbed into a decorated limousine that would take them to their hotel before their honeymoon flight the next morning. Guests began to trickle out. Diane and Richard went home, exhausted but happy. The other bridesmaids said their goodbyes through tipsy hugs and squeals. Jenna found herself alone on the terrace outside the reception hall, the cool night air clearing her head. The city glimmered in the distance, lights twinkling like earthbound stars. Running away? Tommie's voice came from behind her. He joined her side and offered his jacket. Just breathing, she said, slipping into it, enveloped in his warmth and scent. It was a beautiful wedding. It was. Emma deserved it. So do you, you know. Jenna turned to him. Deserve what? This, love, happiness, someone who looks at you the way David looks at Emma. She gave a half laugh. Funny, coming from the man whose entire relationship with me is built on a lie. Is it, though? He stepped closer, hands in his pockets, posture easy but eyes blazing. Because it doesn't feel like a lie when I kiss you. It doesn't feel like a lie when I wake up thinking about you. And it sure as hell doesn't feel like a lie right now when all I want is to hold you and never let go. Jenna's words caught in her throat. Tears burned behind her eyes. Tommie, I'm so scared. So am I. But I'm more scared of walking away from you. He closed the distance, cupped her face in his hands and brushed away a tear with his thumb. Jenna Watson, I am completely and irrevocably in love with you. And I know it's insane. I know we've only known each other for days. But when you know, you know. And I know. How can you be so sure? Because I've never felt this before. Because the thought of going back to Dublin without you feels like leaving half of myself behind. Because you're the most real thing that's happened to me in years, even if it started as the biggest lie. Jenna let out a shaky laugh. This is madness. I know. It makes absolutely no sense. I know. And I'm in love with you too. The words slipped out before she could stop them. But once spoken, she felt lighter, like she'd been holding her breath for days and finally exhaled. Tommie's face broke into a huge, genuine smile that lit up his whole face. Yeah? Yes. Damn it, yes. And I have no idea how this is going to work, but he kissed her. Deep, passionate, without restraint. Jenna melted into him, her arms looping around his neck, kissing him back with every emotion she'd been holding in. It was different this time. No pretending, no audience. Just them, finally, honest. When they pulled apart, both were breathless but smiling. So, Tommie said, forehead pressed to hers, how do we make this work? I don't know, but we'll figure it out. Together. Together, he repeated, testing the word on his tongue. I like that. So do I. They stayed on the terrace, wrapped around each other, kissing and planning in between smiles. Tommie would still fly back to Dublin tomorrow as scheduled, but he'd return in 2 weeks. Jenna would visit a month later. They'd, call every day, video chat, do whatever it took. It was messy, complicated, but real. You'll have to tell your family, Tommie pointed out. Tell them what? The truth, how we actually met. Jenna grimaced. That's going to be humiliating. It'll be honest, and they'll get it eventually. Emma's going to kill me. Emma's going to find it romantic. You've seen how she is. Jenna laughed. True. They finally left the venue around 1 a.m. Tommie drove her back to her parents' house. The ride was quiet, but comfortably so. Their hands stayed intertwined over the console, exchanging lazy smiles at red lights. When they pulled up, he killed the engine, but neither of them moved. I don't want this night to end, Jenna admitted. It doesn't have to. Come with me to the hotel. She blinked. Tommie, Not like that. Just stay with me. We'll talk all night, watch terrible movies, order room service. I just want more time with you before I have to leave tomorrow. Jenna should have said no. She should have been sensible, but she was done being sensible. Let me grab a few things. His smile was reward enough for any consequence that might come later. She slipped quietly into the house, climbed to her room and packed a small backpack, just a change of clothes and a few essentials. She left a quick note on the kitchen counter for her mother. Went with Tommie. Back tomorrow. Love you. When she returned to the car, they drove straight to his hotel, a boutique place downtown. The room was elegant with a king-size bed and wide windows overlooking the glittering city. They stayed up until sunrise, talking about everything and nothing. Childhoods, dreams, fears, regrets. Tommie told her about his mother's death, how it had changed him. Jenna confessed the pressure of being the perfect eldest daughter, the expectations that had built walls around her heart. Between stories, they kissed, softly, curiously, reverently. But they didn't go further. There was no rush, only a shared need for connection, to know each other, to build something real on the ruins of a lie. As the first light crept across the sky, Jenna lay nestled in his arms, her head resting against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "Thank you," she murmured. "For what? For showing up at that airport, for stepping into my ridiculous lie, for making me feel again." Tommie kissed the top of her head. "Thank you for letting me." They slept for a few hours, woke tangled together, and ordered breakfast in bed. By afternoon, Tommie had to leave for the airport. The goodbye was hard, but not sad, because it wasn't an ending. It was the beginning. 2 weeks, he promised at the hotel door, his hands cradling her face. "I'll be back. I'll be waiting. I love you, Jenna Watson. I love you, Tommie O'Connor." One last kiss, long, slow, and sweet. And then he climbed into the cab, waving through the window until the car disappeared into Boston's traffic. Jenna stood on the sidewalk, smiling through tears. Her phone buzzed. A message from Naomi. "So, when do you two stop pretending this isn't real?" Jenna typed back. "We stopped. It's real. Terrifyingly real. Finally, took you long enough." When Jenna returned to her parents' house, Emma and David were there for a quick visit before leaving for their honeymoon in the Caribbean. "Jen," Emma squealed, rushing to hug her. "Where's Tommie?" "He flew back to Dublin, but he'll be back soon." "You two are okay?" Jenna smiled. "Better than okay." Emma squeezed her hands, eyes shining. "I knew it. You're perfect together. So, when's your wedding?" "Emma, slow down. We just admitted we're actually together." "Actually together?" Diane called from the kitchen. "What do you mean, actually?" And there, in the living room, surrounded by family, Jenna told the truth. The whole thing. The airport, the lie, how it all spiraled. Emma listened, jaw dropped. Diane's expression shifted between shock and amusement. Even Richard chuckled. "So you fooled all of us?" Emma finally said. "Technically, yes. Sorry." But Emma was laughing now. "This is the craziest and most romantic thing I've ever heard. You two literally faked it until it became real. That wasn't exactly the plan. The best loves never are, Jen. Look at me and David. We met because he rear-ended my car. Our romance started with an insurance claim." Everyone laughed, and Jenna realized it was okay. More than okay. It was perfect in its imperfection. 2 weeks later, Tommie came back. They spent the weekend in New York, exploring the city, eating at tucked-away restaurants only locals knew, talking until dawn. A month later, Jenna flew to Dublin. She met his team, saw his restaurant, fell in love with the city he called home. The months that followed were a whirlwind. Alternating visits, daily calls, endless messages. It wasn't easy. There were arguments, time zones, exhaustion, missed calls. There were moments when distance felt unbearable, but there was more laughter than tears, more joy than pain. In November, 6 months after Emma's wedding, Tommie asked the real question. Not in a chaotic airport, but in his empty restaurant in Dublin after closing time. Just the two of them, candlelight and wine. "Jenna Watson, will you marry me? For real?" This time, she didn't hesitate. Yes, 1,000 times yes. The ring was simple, elegant, perfect, and when he slid it onto her finger, everything clicked into place. The chaotic pieces of their lives finally made sense. They married 6 months later in June. In a small ceremony in Dublin, only close family and a few dear friends, Emma was maid of honor, Naomi officiated unofficially, and Oliver, of course, was not invited. It was perfect, real, honest, and when the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," and Tommie pulled her in for a kiss that earned applause and cheers, Jenna knew it had all been worth it. Every lie, every complication, every moment of fear, because it had led them here, together, for real, forever. The lie ended, but the love, that part was real. Wow, what an incredible journey we shared with Jenna and Tommie, right? From the chaos of an airport to building a beautiful family, we proved that true love can come from the most unexpected situations. If this story made you laugh, cry, or see a bit of yourself in it, hit that like button now. It really makes a difference. Subscribe to the channel for more stories about mature romance, second chances, and real relationships. Comment below and tell us what you thought. Which part was your favorite? And don't forget to hype this story. Every interaction helps this content reach more people who need to believe that it's never too late for true love. See you in the next story.